All right, let's dive in. Miguel Hernández, a Spanish poet. Um, his story is as captivating as his verses, wouldn't you say? We're looking to understand him right through the lens of the Enneagram, specifically the self-preservation type 4. And the sources were fascinating.
Yeah, really unique approach to see how, his journey and the characteristics of this type, this self-preservation 4, how they might, well, intertwine.
Exactly. Now, for those maybe not as familiar, the self-preservation 4, in a nutshell, deep-seated need for security and stability, but it's mixed with their intense emotions and their drive for authenticity, often very creative, resilient, and deeply introspective.
Yes, and this spirit of tenacity Claudio Naranjo talks about, it really resonates here. Hernandez's upbringing, poverty, a tough start in life. Could that have shaped, his drive to overcome challenges, something we often see in self-preservation 4s?
Oh, I see that link for sure. Definitely. And then you add the Spanish Civil War, upheaval and suffering. And yet his commitment to poetry never wavered, almost like it intensified.
Like his art became a refuge, a way to process those emotions, right, those intense emotions, and to find meaning amidst the chaos. Some argue that for the self-preservation 4, creativity itself, it's a tool, a powerful tool for self-preservation, almost literally.
Well, I see it. Even while imprisoned, he was writing, not just artistic expression, it's a statement, like, I will not be broken. A manifestation of their strength, that unwavering will.
It's certainly a compelling thought. The sources say that for Hernandez, poetry, it wasn't just a hobby, a lifeline. His words weren't just about pain, about redemption, and finding meaning in the face of suffering.
And not just his own suffering, but the collective pain of, well, a nation ripped apart by war.
Yeah.
He captured the soul of that experience, gave a voice to the voiceless, that empathy, sensitivity to suffering, so common in self-preservation 4s.
Absolutely. But he didn't shy away from the rawness of those emotions. Like Lullaby of the Onion, for instance, simple imagery and onion bread to evoke this profound sense of grief and loss.
Heartbreaking, but beautiful. Could this be like how self-preservation 4s find beauty in darkness? Transforming pain into something profound and meaningful.
There's this quote, captures it perfectly. It says, Hernandez's work stands as a testament to the redemptive power of art. He transformed personal anguish and societal despair into verses that inspired hope.
Giving me chills. It makes you think. Art itself, it can be a form of resilience, right?
Yeah.
Woven throughout Hernandez's life.
Right, and he wasn't content to sit on the sidelines. He fought for what he believed in, on the front lines and with his words. Talk about commitment.
His collection, El Hombre Este to a Man Lies in Wait, really shows this. A powerful critique of war, a testament to his belief in justice and freedom.
That unwavering belief, so characteristic of the self-preservation 4. They have this sense of justice, and they're willing to make sacrifices to uphold their values. Was Hernandez's decision to fight, to put himself at risk, driven by this deep-seated need to protect his ideals, even at great personal cost?
That's a heavy question. Definitely one we should explore, but we should acknowledge the toll this commitment took on him.
Yeah, his imprisonment, and then his death, so young. A tragic reminder of the risks of fighting for what you believe in.
It's full of contradictions. Tragedy, triumph, darkness, light. But one thing that stands out, his sensitivity, his empathy, that's what shines through in his work, and I think it's something that resonates with the self-preservation 4.
Absolutely. Can't separate his art from his emotional depth. And he wasn't just observing suffering from a distance. He was channeling his pain, his vulnerabilities into his poetry. Almost like he was, well, inviting others to share that burden.
Makes you wonder. That vulnerability, that willingness to expose his inner world, part of what made him such a compelling poet.
It does align with the idea that true strength lies in vulnerability. We see this in the self-preservation 4 again and again.
His life and his work prove it. By embracing pain, humanity, he connected with others deeply, created something truly meaningful, lasting.
And that's what makes his legacy so inspirational. He thrived. And he reminds us, even facing immense suffering, there's beauty, strength, hope. So resilience. We have to remember, the Spanish Civil War, it wasn't just history for Hernandez, it was his reality.
Right.
Shaping him both as a person and as an artist.
Yeah, it wasn't just some backdrop. It was everywhere.
Exactly. And you see it so powerfully in his poetry from this time. Raw, visceral, the pain of conflict, but also this hope for a better future, this simultaneous, grappling with darkness and clinging to hope. Do you see that in the self-preservation 4?
Well, some research on the self-preservation 4 does mention this awareness of life's fragility and sensitivity to suffering, but also this deep belief in the possibility of, well, transformation, renewal.
That's a great point. Makes me think of his collection, Viento del Pueblo, Wind of the People. It's a testament to that spirit of resistance, during the war, a call to action, those fighting for freedom and justice.
And it's deeply emotional. It's not just a call to arms. It's both the tragedy of war and the unyielding spirit of the people.
Right. It's not just despair, it's finding strength, facing adversity, clinging to hope, even in those dark times. Does that resonate with the resilience we see in the self-preservation for?
Absolutely. They don't give up. Even when faced with obstacles, they have this strength,
Yeah.
a drive to find meaning, purpose, even in the midst of suffering.
And Hernandez, his sense of purpose, so intertwined with social justice, he wasn't just watching, he had to act. Use his art as a weapon, you could say,
Yeah.
against oppression.
Yes, he was vocal in his opposition to Franco. His poetry became a rallying cry for the Republican cause, hope, resistance.
Like he had to speak truth to power, his words, a weapon for a better world, that commitment to justice, that willingness to risk it all. Does that speak to this self-preservation for their values, their need to protect what they believe in?
It's fascinating. It's not just about, ideals. It's personal. They feel things intensely, and that passion, it fused their actions.
And when we look at El hombre acecha, man lies in wait, even more evident. It's an indictment of violence, injustice, the human cost of conflict.
I'm struck by he doesn't shy away from the brutality. He confronts it, forces us to confront, our own capacity for cruelty and also compassion.
And that's part of his legacy, maybe. He reminds us, even in darkness, art can be powerful. It can expose injustice, inspire hope, connect us on a human level.
It really makes you think, what is the role of the artist in times of upheaval? Is it enough to reflect, or do they have to act, resist, even if it means risking themselves?
That's a complex question, still debated, but Hernández, there was no separation. Art and his activism, totally linked.
And it's remarkable, right? Amidst all the turmoil, he explores love, loss, resilience.
Right. It's not just about the Spanish Civil War. It's about being human. I think that's why his work still speaks to us today.
We might not be in a civil war, but we all have our battles, struggles, loss, searching for meaning. And Hernández's poetry, it's like a guide, for navigating those challenges.
Sure.
Reminds us that even in darkness, there's beauty, strength, hope.
Makes you wonder, his experiences, the war, did they, intensify these qualities, these self-preservation for traits?
Were they always there? Or were they forged in the fire?
It's a good question. And it speaks to the idea that Enneagram types, they're innate, but our experiences shape them too.
Hernández, his experiences were, intense, traumatic, even imprisoned, facing execution. He kept writing. It's the human spirit. So resilient.
Unbreakable, creative spirit, even in those circumstances. Solace, strength.
No, it wasn't just for himself, right? He was writing for his people, for the cause. Poetry as a weapon, hope against tyranny.
His letters from prison, so moving. They're full of longing for freedom, but also belief in justice. He wrote to his wife, "I believe in the ultimate victory of those who fight for a better world, even if they don't live to see it."
It's heartbreaking, but also inspiring, never giving up, even when it seems impossible. This belief in a better future, is that especially strong in the self-preservation for?
Well, a lot of the research, it does suggest that. They have this deep hope, even in the dark times. They believe in transformation, redemption.
And that's what's so powerful about Hernández.
Yeah.
He shows us, even when things are hard, you can find meaning, create beauty, fight for something better.
It's not about grand gestures, it's the small things. Choices, upholding values, connecting with others, creating something beautiful in the world.
It makes me think about how self-preservation force, how they express themselves, their creativity. It's not just art, it's creating beauty, meaning in their lives, even with chaos, darkness.
That's a beautiful way to put it. The power of art. It heals, it gives us hope, connects us to something bigger.
And for Hernández, his art, it became a legacy that still inspires us today. His words, they go beyond time, beyond borders. They give us hope, resilience, the power of the human spirit. Okay, so we've talked about his life, his art, the self-preservation for. But what about, his impact? Beyond his lifetime, how has his work lived on?
Well, it's really amazing how his legacy, it's gone beyond time, beyond borders. Not just a Spanish poet. He's a symbol, of artistic resistance. Find beauty in suffering, the power of the human spirit.
Yeah, and it's not just academics. His poems, they're still being set to music, recited, even used in films. It's like his
Yeah.
work, it still speaks to people, even now, generations later.
It's like his words, they tap into something we all share, right? That search for meaning when life is hard, that longing for justice, for freedom, and love, that power of love, even in the darkest times.
Yeah. And for those familiar with the Enneagram, the self-preservation 4, it's like looking in a mirror. His life, it reflects those core traits: intense emotions, the search for identity, for authenticity, that struggle to find their place.
But also the strength, the creativity, their commitment to their values. It's a testament, those traits, they can be painful, but they also make you resilient.
Absolutely. And his legacy, it's not just an idea. There are schools, libraries, even cultural centers named after him, dedicated to, well, fostering creativity, social awareness, especially for young people.
It's like his spirit, it lives on in those places, encouraging future generations to find their own voices and to use them to make a difference.
It's a powerful image, right? This shepherd from humble beginnings becomes this voice for his generation. And now his words, they inspire so many others to create, to resist injustice, to find beauty, even in the face of adversity.
It reminds us art has power. It goes beyond borders. It connects us across generations, and it can inspire change. But maybe most important, it reminds us that the human spirit, it's resilient. It has the potential for beauty, for hope, even when things are dark.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you, the listener, what resonates with you about Miguel Hernández? Is it his resilience, his commitment to his ideals, his empathy?
Maybe you see yourself, in his struggles, his triumphs, or maybe you're just drawn to the power of his words, his ability to find beauty amidst suffering, to use art for good.
Whatever it is, I really encourage you to explore his poetry. Let his words just wash over you and see what sparks they ignite.
And remember, his story, it's not just about a poet from a different time. It's about resilience, the beauty of creativity, and the potential we all have to find meaning, to find hope, even when faced with adversity.
That's what's so great about these deep dives. We start with a poet, an Enneagram type, a time in history, and we end up with so much more. We understand ourselves better. We see the power of art, and hopefully we're inspired to embrace our creativity, our resilience, to live with, well, a little more courage, a little more heart, a lot more soul. Thanks for joining us.